Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Yeah, so in the previous tutorial, we had looked at how to create a database using the create database statement and the name of the database, and also to activate it, because we have so many databases on the server, so we need to specify which one are we going to be working on at that particular time. So we use the use keyword of the SQL language. So after having looked at how to create a database, then you can now start looking at which objects can we create in the database, the things that we can add into our database, starting with the table and other things which we shall see as the course goes on. So before we look at the table, as I told you, there are things that you're going to go back to that you looked at in the C programming language, in the structured programming language, that we didn't do in the Python language. But Python was just catering them for us internally or behind scenes. But here, since SQL is an old versioned language, it used to have these things and they are still maintained. So things like terminating, as I showed you, we have to terminate each line, and then here come back the data types. So as you're creating maybe variables or something that is going to hold any data, we need to specify the type of data that it is going to hold. So as we discussed in the Zoom class, and I told you that we identify the subjects in the scenario. For example, we have course and student in the ERP scenario, and then for each subject to create a table. So we have a table for course, we have a table for student. And then we have identified the attributes of these subjects. For example, the course, we have, let me do this with a notepad, with the help of a notepad. So as I said that we have a course. So we say that a course should have attributes like maybe the course code, the course name, okay, and maybe the faculty and the duration. So these are the attributes. So meaning that if you have to create a table for course, so this corresponds to a table, okay, and then the rest of these attributes correspond to a column. We say that we create a table column for each of these attributes. So now, since the columns are the ones below which we are going to have the particular data. For example, if we have a column name, as I said, as I demonstrated in the Zoom class, that if our table is going to be course, and then we have the column code, and the column maybe name, and the column faculty, and duration. So this is like our table. Then maybe below this we have maybe 001, and we have EIT, then we have maybe science, and then we have duration of maybe 3 years, okay, and then another one 002, maybe this is BCS, and then faculty science, maybe the duration is maybe 4 years. I'm just saying. So you see that under each column there is some set of given type of data that we list. So as we are defining the columns of the table, it is important we specify which type of data do we expect to be listed under that particular column. So if you look at this code, you may find that this is a character, because sometimes I think I've seen some course codes with okay, just like that. But the moment the mere fact that we are starting with zeros, so it is no longer a number but a character, because there's no number that starts with a 0. So it will be a character. This is a character or string, okay, and then this one is a number. And then if you have something else that requires decimal points, you may find yourself defining a double or a float. So as you're creating these tables, we need to specify which kind of data type is going to be, which type of data is going to be listed under a given column of that particular table. So meaning that we need to pay attention to the data types, or at least to make a reflection on what data types are. So database tables contain multiple columns, as I told you, with specific types of data or data types that define the format of data, such as numeric, string, date, and some special data types. So these are the different categories of types of data that our data could be in. So each data type in MySQL can be determined by the following. That is the kind of values it can represent. Just like we have here, which kind of values are they going to be? Some characters or a combination of numbers and strings? Is it going to be a date? Is it going to be an image? Which kind of data, or which kind of value are you representing? And then also the space that values, all those values take up, and whether the values are fixed length or variable length. So what I mean by this is when you look at code, the amount of characters or the number of characters you need for code may not be the same number of characters you may need for a faculty, because we know that we have a faculty could be maybe management, or could be social works and arts. I think is social works and arts a faculty. So the name is long with so many characters, whereas this one mostly you find only a maximum of 5 characters for the course code. So meaning that the the space that you need for course code is not the same space you need for faculty, or maybe the name of the course, because the name here we have just abbreviated, but you may find that they may need to write a full course name: Bachelors of Information Technology, Bachelors of Computer Science, Diploma in Computer Science and IT. So you find that the number of characters, or the space that you need for name, is not the same space that you're going to need for code, because code takes less data compared to, or less characters compared to this. So as a matter of fact, when you're defining your columns, in addition to defining the data type, okay, meaning the kind of data that you represent, you have to go ahead and specify the length or the amount of space that you need for that particular column. So this is what the next thing is all about. The space that those values take up, and whether the values are fixed length or variable length. What you mean by fixed length and variable length is whether we can say that, okay, because we can limit course code that, okay, all the codes should be only 3 characters. We don't want anything less or anything more. So if someone tries to type 2 characters, write a course code for maybe 03 like that, it won't accept. And again, if someone tries to write something like 003 with 4 characters, again, it won't accept. It only accepts 3 characters. So we make it a fixed length column or data type. Whereas with, you find that for name, you can't specify, because one course name can be shorter compared to another. Okay, you find that, okay, faculty Bachelors of Information Technology, that is quite longer when you say Bachelors of Law. Okay, so the two are not the same in length. So meaning that name has a variable length. The values change in length compared to maybe the course code. So you can say our codes should only be a maximum of 3, like a fixed value of 3 characters. Okay, so this is what we mean by the value, whether the data type is going to be fixed length or variable length. So we do that all with the data types. And then the other thing is, can the values of the data type be indexed? So with this, what we mean by index is to assign unique values, okay, to assign a unique identifier to those values. So we are saying that whether the values of a given column should not be duplicated. Okay, the values of a given column should not be duplicated. And you can agree with me that we cannot have 2 courses with the same code. So we cannot say, okay, 001 BIT and 001 BCS or computer science. So if this column is going to have indexed values, whereby values are not supposed to be repeating in the same table, then we have to specify that as we're defining our columns, or as we're defining the data type. Whereas with maybe the faculty, many courses can be in the same faculty, so this column may not be indexed. But you can also index the name, because we don't expect 2 courses having the same name, BIT, two different courses. No. So each course should have one unique name and then one unique code. So these two columns, you may find that you have to index them, whereas these two you don't need to be indexed, because two courses can have the same duration, two courses can fall in the same faculty. So this is what we mean by that. So these are the different categories of data types. We have string data types, and in SQL, these are the data types that we use for any string kind of data. So you have character, whereby character, it is a fixed length. If you say character and then n represents the number of characters, if you say character 3, it means that that column we are limiting it to only 3 characters, less or more. We don't expect less or more. So that's we fix it. And then variable character, which is abbreviated as varchar. Okay, some people just pronounce it as varchar, but the first 3 letters stand for variable, meaning that it can change. And then the character, and then again we have to specify the maximum value. But this one is not fixed as this. If you say 45 or if you say 20, it could be 20 or it could be anything less than 20, but not more. Okay, with the variable character. But once we say 5 here, the value of the character should be 5. We cannot say 4, we cannot say 6. Whereas with a variable character, if you put a value for n that may be 10, you can have 10, yes, or less. Okay, so we can create a value with maybe 5 characters or 6 characters, but not 11 or more. Okay, these are the maximum values of that you can represent, or that are represented by these data types. We also have the long, which is also variable length character that takes up much space. So why do we have these variances? Is to help us to manage the space of our database, so that we don't create redundant space. It wouldn't make sense to create a code with characters, maybe 20 characters. So you're wasting out of space because you don't expect any course code to have 20 characters. So you just know, okay, what can maximum code have, a maximum number of characters a code can have? Okay, it may just have a maximum of 5. So just maybe put an allowance of 1 and you make it 6. Then defining 10 or 20, and they're not going to be used for the existence of the system. Okay, so that's why we have all these variances, so that we can manage our space within the database efficiently. Then you have numerical data types, which are numbers or integers and float. So numbers, a general purpose numeric data type. So for it takes any kind of a number, whether it is decimal or whole number or whatever. But if you want to be specific, then that's when you come to integer. This one takes only whole numbers, okay, and they are signed. And then you have float, which takes floating point or decimal points. And you also have double, okay, which takes more decimal floating points compared to float. And then the date and time category of data types, as we are going to be seeing some of them. But the common one for under this category is the date data type. And the default format starts with the year, month, and the day. So for example, I'm recording this video today. What's the date today? It is 11th July 2021. So it starts with 2021 July 11. That is the default format of SQL. So those are the data types. We had to take at least a preview about them, so that we can know which kind of data types we have, so that we can create our columns with any of those. So we come to tables, and I think let me start the tables with a new recording, because I'm seeing this one is taking time. It is already 14 minutes.